You're listening to Coffee Talk on KIJV. I'm Sean Martin. We're joined now by Robert Coleman, an author who has moved to the Huron area. And Robert has written a book called At the Mercy of the State, based on a true story and detailing events that occurred in Robert's life while he was living in Michigan. Now, Robert, could you please encapsulate what the book is about?
Well, the book basically covers the background of what could happen to anybody. This is a story that is comes back to where I had an affair with my wife, and this scorned woman had been upset with me, so she had told Child Protective Services that I had beat my kids, and it just escalated into the point to where I think the state takes these situations and they bring them way out of proportion. We've had the Protective Service with the police come over. They came, they looked, they didn't see any imminent danger, and they left. Where I really get into detail of my book is how the state handles this. They have the power and they use it, and I think the state, when they get into these child protective custody cases, really do this because there's a lot of money driven behind this. There's a lot of federal dollars that draws the states and gives them incentives to do this. And they do it because they can. And so that's pretty much on how the book is written. It just goes into a story in detail and how it unfolds. And it shows all the transcripts and all the questions that they ask in court and how petty a lot of things are.
Now, when did this process start, and how long did the court side of it actually take?
It took a year, and it was well over a year. After they started these allegations, they pretty much wrote it all out and took a year for it. And what had happened is I knew all this stuff wasn't even true, so I fought it tooth and nail. And they don't like that. They don't like to hear that you're going to get an attorney and you're going to fight the state. So what they do is they snowball you into calling SWAT on you and do some kind of SWAT team maneuver, and they take your kids away from you. Once they have your children, then they feel that they have the upper hand, because anytime you do anything, you have to do what they're told, or they don't let you see your kids, or they won't give you visitation, or they really put the clamps down on you. And I just feel that it's legalized kidnapping ring.
Now, what sort of financial toll did this take on you, not only in the expense of retaining an attorney, but also in time lost from work and various things? I mean, because you look through this, and I mean, it's obvious this was a lengthy proceeding.
Oh, it completely wipes you out. The biggest thing is financially. The second biggest thing is emotionally. The loss of your children, and then you trying to figure out what had happened. It just gets into the point to where I had rental properties at the time, and I had everything situated, but it just wiped me out. I was completely financially wiped out. And then when I went and got a job and started working that, they contacted my work, the prosecutor did, and had me fired from the job. They called my priest, they called my family, they called my neighbors. I mean, they just pretty much really make it hard for you to try to function your life, because they point the finger that you're the worst person in the world.
Now, did you get the feeling, I think you've said this earlier, did you get the feeling that this almost became a vendetta?
Absolutely. It was a witch hunt. I mean, they were definitely on a witch hunt. 90% of their case was basically built upon falsification, and then the other 10% was basically built on hearsay. So, yeah, I would say so.
Now, if false allegations are made, what sort of recourse do you have? Are you able to sue? Are you able to recover any money?
Well, that's the whole thing. You know, there is a law, it's a federal law that states that if somebody lies in court, they're held at perjury. But these people don't seem to be held accountable for anything, and they seem to protect them. I know that the person that had filed a complaint against us, afterwards, investigators that had worked for me had found out that she was wanted for a felony warrant in another state. Well, here she's standing on the stand in court and stating that she's never been in trouble and I did this or I did that. And her testimony really isn't held accountable because of her criminal background history.
What kind of reaction have you had from people who have been in similar situations to this?
People, they like the book because it really explains the story on exactly that they've had the same situation happen to them, whether it would be more drastic or it would be less drastic. In my case, I got my children back. I really fought them to the point to where I got my children back and I exposed them. Other people bow down to the government and they lose their parental rights and their rights get terminated. And again, it's the state pushing for money. They get cash bonuses for taking these children into foster care. They get cash bonuses for adopting these children out and putting them into a new home and finding them new family members.
Now, you said this process varies state to state, so it is different in South Dakota than it was in Michigan. Is that your understanding?
I think Michigan is really bad. I mean, they've really tipped the scales when it came to the circumstances. As far as South Dakota goes, I haven't really seen bad cases. I've seen where people have lost their kids, but I've also seen to where Protective Services worked with families to get these children in with relatives, convicted kin, to get them in with people that they're related to, and also had worked to get them home. And a lot of things is the state really looks on factual evidence. I know in one particular case that CPS did, fabricate some issues and try to make them into more than what it was, but they got their children back after 8 days. But still, that's 8 days of dramatic experience for a child.
And we want to reiterate once again, your story takes place in the state of Michigan, not South Dakota. And you come from a law enforcement background. Your family's been in law enforcement. Obviously, I mean, you realize it's important if a child is in a legitimately dangerous situation, that child needs to be removed from that. How do you think the process could be improved?
Well, first of all, I think that all this needs to be removed out of CPS's hands. That's Child Protective Services. That needs to be taken out of their hands. This is a criminal issue. When you take a child and you do endangerment on a child, the police should investigate. This should be a situation where if children are placed into foster care, parents get charged and put in jail. That's not the case with these people. What the court does is they do these civil proceedings and they civilly sue you for your children. So therefore, they don't have to have factual evidence. It's 51% burden of proof instead of higher burden of proof. So in those situations, I think, child abuse is, it is out there. It does exist. But what they need to do is work with law enforcement and let the police handle this. These cases aren't handled well with Child Protective Services.
Do you think if you had not had your background in law enforcement, the resolution of this might not have gone quite as well as it did, if you had not been as mindful of your rights?
Yeah, I knew my rights. I mean, I knew that they had to have a warrant to come into your house. But rule in lesson number 1, you think you've done nothing wrong. Oh, sure, come on in. You invite them into your house and you proceed to try to so-called talk your way out of it. These people build a case as soon as they walk in your front door. They start collecting evidence against you, dirty dishes in the sink, not a very clean house, poverty level, things like that. And to me, that's ridiculous. People have the right to have their children. They have the fundamental right to raise their kids. And these people are going in and taking that right away from parents. So if I didn't have that background, I feel that they would have really tried to take advantage of us.
Now, if somebody's listening right now and they're going through a situation similar to this, their children have been taken away and they feel for no good reason, what should their first step be?
Well, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I personally would say that I would tell them very politely if they come knocking on your door, Child Protective Services, even if they have the police with them, that they need to get a warrant. They need to go to the court and get a warrant. Most likely they're not going to be able to get a warrant because it's on a false allegation or some kind of false tip. And then if they've already been into the situation where they've already had CPS in their home, you need to find a good lawyer. There's a lot of good lawyers out there that are handle this certain case with Child Protective Services and know how to deal with these issues. And you just basically have to document everything, record everything, tape everything. Anytime any social worker has any contact with your children, you need to record those situations. Let them know that they're not going to come into the school and see your kids without your presence, and that the children need to have attorneys in this effect, because they can't take away your rights because you're an adult. But the child, they take away their rights. They go in and they take them out of the home, and they take away their rights and put them into foster care. They try to use this past history, that there's a past history, that parents have a past history of this. In my case, I had apartment buildings, so anytime there was a tenant that had a domestic problem, they tried to say that, well, the police were called to my house for a domestic problem. Well, I was a resident in my own apartment building, so the police were called out to my address, but it wasn't my residence per se itself. So the stories get twisted, and things get pursued on. So they try to come into your life and they try to tell you that, well, if you don't cooperate with us, then we will take your children away. Well, if you don't do this, then we will take your children away. And these are idle threats. They're illegal. And, it's something that, again, you need to talk to an attorney about. But you can't talk your way out of this. Always talk through an attorney, and don't discuss these issues with them. Talk through an attorney on it.
Did this change at all the way you parent? Does it make you more mindful of appearances?
Well, I mean, I've never beat my kids. They accuse me of hitting my children with belts. I've open-handedly spanked my child before, and I've told them that. But they'll take something as simple as I can say that, well, I was raised and my dad hit me with a belt. So therefore, because my dad hit me with a belt, I'm considered a hostile person, and I'm considered an abusive person. I grew up in an abusive family. See, they twist it. So it's made me more aware of the circumstances on how the government tries to come in and raise your family.
Well, Robert, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Anything you want to say in closing? And before we let you go, let's have you talk about where the book is available.
Yeah, the book is available in our area. It's available at Barnes & Noble. We've also have the book. It's online. You can get it through as a Nook. You can also get it as a Kindle. And you can visit us on Facebook. And we're also on MySpace. And you can just Google it online to find the book. And that's pretty much all. A lot of bookstores are having the book in this area. But they're also across the country, though. They're all over the United States.
Any plans to write any future books, or is this it for you?
Well, I didn't want to write this one, but I wrote this on behalf of my children and behalf of all the parents out there that are loving parents, and God bless you all. I really wish you the best of luck, and I really hope this book exposes and opens up the eyes of people, and quit being closed-minded, that this stuff does happen. Just because everyone always told me, well, you must have done something wrong for the state to come in, and that's not necessarily true. All it takes is just a false allegation, or just a simple argument, or people argue, people fight, a simple thing like that, and the next thing you know, it escalates to where your children are hauled off to Child Protective Services and put into a home because they feel that paying a foster parent X amount of dollars per month for raising your kids is better than what you could ever do.
That is author Robert Coleman. We've been talking about Robert's book, At the Mercy of the State. And again, the events in the book based on a true story, and those events occurred in the state of Michigan. We'll be back with more Coffee Talk on KIJV.